Hello, my friends. It is day 284, and we're reading Matthew chapter 9, and we're also reading Luke chapter 7. But before we get into our recap today, I want to thank you for taking a moment to check out this video, and hopefully you're finding the yearly Bible reading program enjoyable, and you're learning a lot, and you're encouraged to finish the year strong as we come to the end of our year of reading. It's so crazy to believe that we've made it this far. And so with that being said, before we get into our recap, if you have not yet accepted the invitation, you can check out the description box below. You have about less than 2 months, but it's not too late to jump in and get a head start for next year. And you can do that by also visiting www.selflesschurch.org. On the homepage, you'll see a link that allows you to reserve, or maybe should I say register, and you can be up to date with some of the things we're going to be doing this year as we prepare for the reading calendar for 2026. So we hope you'll join us for that. But I'll tell you, today we're moving right along, and we're getting through the Gospels, and we're seeing some things that are unique in each one of the Gospel accounts. And a lot of the things that we've read today, we see in the other books or the other Gospels, but it's just amazing to recognize and identify how Jesus is able to demonstrate the presence of God, I should say God specifically, and how incredibly unique that experience is. Now, I want you to understand what's happening here. Remember, we're talking about a period where God's people have not seen this sort of intervention in their lives or in the nation for some time. And so to read of events where Jesus is actually moving in the lives of his people, touching individual lives, visiting their problems, visiting their circumstances, and by this signifying that he has come back to Israel. Words cannot explain just how powerful this is. The part that resonated with me today in our reading is in Luke's Gospel, chapter 7. And the widow has a son who the Lord resurrects. And whenever this resurrection happens, whenever this young man is brought back to life, in verse 16, look at what it says. It says, "Great fear swept the crowd." So imagine all these people sitting here watching this. They just watched a young boy return from the dead. And this is what they said. They began to praise God, saying, "A mighty prophet has risen among us." And look at this next part. "And God has visited his people today." And from that, the news about Jesus began to spread. Now, you got to understand the power of that. When they are saying God has visited his people, what they're saying is, man, we have not seen anything like this before. We have reached a point and there's something happening. See, they would have understood these miracles is not just about their individual success or well-being. That's a part of it. But the bigger part is, if God has done this in the life of this family, in the life of this individual, then that means there's something bigger happening within the nation of Israel. And that's the way we should really interpret our individual events. We should see it as, wait a minute, there's something bigger happening in the lives of God's people, in the family of God, in the people of God, that lets us know that God is up to something. I think that gets lost in our world where we crave miracles. We look for, the supernatural and all those different things. That's great. But we forget to entertain the question, what does this mean for the times we're living in, for the people of God? What is this communicating? How does my story fit within the larger story of what God is doing across the world? And so when we look at these miracles, that's what this is about. It's about Jesus communicating to the nation that God has arrived, that God is here to do what he has done for others. And your time has finally, has finally come. Another part that was really special was chapter 9 of Matthew's Gospel, verse 35, where it talked about Jesus traveling through all the towns and villages teaching in the synagogues, announcing the good news about the kingdom, and he healed every kind of disease and illness. When he saw the crowds, it's my favorite part. It says he was filled with compassion because they were confused, they were helpless, and they were like sheep without a shepherd. So the word confused there means that they were distressed and they were defenseless. The word helpless means that they were worn out, they were dejected, they were in a very bad situation, and there's no one to help them. And he said to his disciples, the harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord who's in charge of the harvest and ask him to send more workers into his fields. And this is a position I think we find ourselves in the 21st century. I think, yes, we obviously have a lot of religion. We obviously have a lot of religious institutions, but we don't have much shepherding, and we don't have a lot of the quality of life that God has promised his people in respects to how they are to exist in this world and the impact they're supposed to have in this world. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We don't pay attention to that just because we feel we have a lot of religion, a lot of churches, a lot of things happening, conferences and, resources and things like that. All those things are great, but here's a question: what are the conditions of the people? And I don't know that we could ever outmatch the institutionalization of Judaism during Jesus' time. We couldn't compare. I mean, you talk about a system. This is the best of the best, and yet still the people were in the kind of conditions that they were in, and it just testifies to the fact that we, as much as they did, we need Jesus. We need him in our lives. We need him in our churches. We need him in our communities. We need him in our nation. We need him. And whenever we have him present, there's a distinct difference in the way in which a person lives in comparison to those who don't have Jesus in their life or in their community or in their church or in their nation. So listen, what we're reading is powerful. I would love to know your thoughts about it, what you're seeing, what's standing out to you, and how is it shaping the way you think about your walk with Christ. But let's keep going. We're in the home stretch here, and we have just a little while to go, and we'll be yet again at the end of another powerful year of reading the Bible. So I love to see you at the end of the year. I love to see what you're saying, what you're learning. Please leave it in the comment box below, and maybe we can have some dialogue around it. But until next time, thank you for watching. Take care. God bless. And remember, live by the word.